Hey everyone, are you ready to grow your own fresh, delicious vegetables, herbs, and flowers this season? If you're looking for the highest quality heirloom organic seeds, I've got the perfect company for you, True Leaf Market. They've been a trusted seed company since 1974, offering 3,000 types of non-GMO varieties, everything from classic heirloom tomatoes and peppers to rare herbs, microgreens, sprouting seeds, and beautiful flowers. All those seeds are open pollinated, pure, and perfect for home gardeners or anyone wanting healthy, flavorful produce without chemicals. What I love the most is their huge selection, fast shipping guarantees, plus options for bulk if you're going big. If you're excited to start your garden this year with real, authentic heirloom and organic seeds, click the link in the description box below to check out TrueLeafMarket.com. You won't regret it. Happy planting, and thank you for supporting the channel and this broadcast. This is not a toothpaste, it's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts, Alfa Vedic dental solution system. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further, or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world.
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. And thank you for all the support.
And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this beautiful blue planet. Oh, another day for breath and another day of, well, the wet and the cold sliding across the U.S. in many different shapes and forms. Europe frozen right straight out of the movie. They got the castles there. They can, they play the part. As we go through this next few days, I did want to read from the book here, Think and Grow Rich. So two forms of imagination. Wanted to start off, everybody's talking about this, that, and the other, but to frame the year, I guess it's going to be how you frame it. You can get dragged along by the news the whole entire year, or you can just kind of reframe it and go, wait, I'm going to focus on something different right in here to bend the hologram in front of you to something of your own, imagination. Not somebody else is locking you down somewhere. Break free. See you later. Synthetic imagination and creative imagination. Arrange concepts, ideas. That's synthetic. Square goes here. Square peg, round hole. Creative is quite a different thing. Direct communication with infinite intelligence, I guess, is the best way to put it. Now you're reaching out to that infinite intelligence. Can you meld and mesh with it to have something from that ether appear in the third dimension right in front of you is the question. Thought creates reality. That's how I wanted to start the show. That's how 2026 should flow. So write some, thanks for letting me ramble on the intro there. Got a few slides for us tonight, food pyramid, and welcome everybody to the Civilization Cycle podcast live radio show every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. We're streaming off Rumble first. We're heading over to X, Civ Cycle, a few places up through Telegram as well, and shows yours. I just kind of blanked out thinking about trying to bend into their reality there, man.
I think that's the plan. You know, just the continuation of 26 is going just about, and I'm not bragging, but how we predicted it. I mean, all the way to the movement of nations of where they're going and what they're trying to take, and the technology that's coming out. I'm sure you saw the whole Venezuela, whatever going on. But what most of the world doesn't know is for the first time in history, an entire battle was done probably, I'm going to estimate at 80 to 85% AI. So they took drones and all kinds of intelligence. They had some, other things flying around, manned aircraft, but they simultaneously hit over 1,000 targets in under 5 minutes. And this was done through AI and drones. So just like we predicted over in the Western Hemisphere, a whole little battle overnight was over in the morning. It all took place overnight with just AI. I mean, not to diminish the people involved, the actual people, because there were, but most of those targets, boom, drones hit them.
Going to come out swinging and say, whoever dominates AI dominates the planet, right? Whoever's got the strongest military, the biggest bat, the biggest gun is going to win. It's always been like that, always has been. Cannons giving the advantage. It's been like this through history. The strongest. I don't care if you go back 5,000 years with armies marching through the Middle East, or if you're up to today or World War II. I don't care. Whoever has the strongest armies, biggest guns, the most power that can crush somebody and make them bend to your will. That is, there's been this constant flow on the planet. And because it's all from AI, I would like to throw you a quick article on the phone here. Data center, this is off Zero Hedge, which just came in today. Data centers were 40% of all the electricity auctioned and sold to PJM, which is a power provider in sort of Central East down from Ohio. Capacity cost at the last auction. So get this. Data centers bought $6.5 billion worth of out of the $16.4 billion. 40%, that amount of went in away from the consumer into the data center. So we're looking at a war of attrition here too. The data centers and the amount of electricity that needs to be produced to allow this AI to run, because whoever has it dominates. And if you do dominate, then, well, you have more power to do such things that we saw. Just walked on down, took it. Soft power now it projects around. But it's only possible because of this. So it's 40% of the cost of a major power provider in America. So how much more expensive is our electricity going to get? Do you think, as we run this arms race of, it's not just the shells and tanks and these sort of things any long fighter jets. It's now AI, but it requires a shit ton, excuse my French, a shit ton of electricity and resources and water. I mean, right now it's visible to the US public that this is taking away from their, so to say, quality of life. Like it's noticeable now. The illusion is broken. This is going to be the competitor here. So at what point do people say the data centers are just taking too much, man? We can't have doubling electricity prices every month because the data centers are auctioning and buying out 80 or 90% of the power. And we're stuck with what's left, digging in for the 10%. Our electricity bills are going up. That's the way it would go if it was unchecked. So without this digital nervous system, as you show there, and then yeah, it's in the healthcare, it's in this, it's in the policing, it's in this surveillance pricing. That I watched this crazy video on how grocery stores are giving you individual prices, especially Instacart, based on what they found to you around the web, and their little testing buckets and testing baskets of maximum price giving for a certain item. It's all AI. Corporations have risen their bottom line by 3 to 8% using this kind of pricing, this on-demand dynamic pricing on an individual basis. That all depends on AI. Corporations are going to lose billions and billions that they're ilking out of you, milking you every few cents. They're using digital pricing off AI, and that's all in addition to what the military is using, and all in addition to what all the large language models are using, and all the businesses are using that as well. Like it just never is going to end the insatiable demand for power unless we got new power systems. I'm not sure.
Well, you know, I think they're gonna. What's going on right now is we're still in the construction phase of this, where the digital nervous system and actual reality with tech and products and ways of living are intersecting. They're still in the construction phase, but that's only to roll it out. They have the technology to have this cinched up, and I can show you like with a couple easy diagrams, right here. Well, I went
Well,
up.
I have the new reactor here. If I can go to page, let's go down to 33 or somewhere down there. I got a reactor picture for you. Here's your Aranico. Oh, the one before that, Ransom. And this is the new reactor you might be looking for here. So they're bending the magnetic fields. Now, this is some new power. This is the newest, what we're seeing here of, instead of making something go in a perfect circle, which is much more difficult to control it, allow Schauberger principles to take form, and in the plasma itself adheres to Schauberger principles such as airflow, water flow, and now plasma flow. You think they're, because they're all following the same rules, shall we say, at least to a certain level of how small it can go. So think about this, the same Schauberger principles. So those, perfect cylinders like a Serum, they're not going to be building those anymore. They're building them to look like a roller coaster, in the way Schauberger can, the vortex can spin it in different directions, and it's following its own vortex flow with very little containment needed, because they're just creating or following what it would do naturally. They're not forcing it into a perfect circle, which never happens. It's always following the flow like it would downstream. You never see a straight stream unless we create it with concrete. Now, why would it be any different with plasma? It's not.
No. Well, basically, the way I see it is, I don't know how they're gonna, super juice the technological end of power production. But I know what the power production is on one end of it, and that's kind of what I was going to get into here.
Get into it, man. Get into it.
They have it all worked out here. So this digital nervous system is just a little.
I'm nervous. I'm nervous, Ransom.
Right. It's a tiny aspect of it. But if you can look at this diagram, this is here, let me get rid of this other thing.
Yeah, let's turn that off for a second there. Yeah.
Anyway, this is pretty much what happened over Venezuela, right? Just they turned off all the signals from their equipment, right? And then they just used this system. So you got the low Earth orbit satellites. They go to the UAVs, and those go down to the Internet of Things. You see that IoT right there? And then from
Mhm.
there, it just goes right into your body. And this is how they're
Well,
having set up.
how much nanodust do you think would help carry that signal, versus 0 in the atmosphere versus I wouldn't say being blanketed, but dusted with it across our planet right now?
Um, I was about to get into that. Actually, I think they have that worked out here. You see, they got these, and if you look at this image right here, this is all about the implants that all of the companies want to give you. And in fact, everything is going in this direction. And that brings me back to my point that I was saying. Here's one end of the power generation of this Internet of Things merging of biology and technology system is you are the battery. Just like in the Matrix, you are going to produce the energy needed for these peripherals that they're going to install in everyone's body. And they're just going to roll out into it, especially these brain implants. Neuralink plans high volume brain implant production 2026. But, you know, here it is. It's the smart dust that you've kind of been waiting for here. Look at this.
My whole life, Ransom, I've been waiting my whole life.
So, scientists create robots smaller than a grain of sand. And guess what? It's run off of light. And
Well, what
then
do you
you
think
get it.
protons are? They're energy.
Well, and that's what this DARPA generative optogenetics is about. See,
Brandon.
they already have the technology to intersect these fields of Wi-Fi, 5G, 6G, whatever, all the microwave, all of the peripherals for internet devices, tablets, phones, everything. But it's moving over into the implantation phase, and you don't even have to get these big implants like on that chart. These are smaller than a grain of sand right here, and they run on light, they're fully programmable and autonomous devices. In other words, they can be pre programmed and you can get them any number of ways into your system or into your, say you run one of those giant Bitcoin farms and a plane just flies over and drops this dust and they just infect everything and then they shut it down and they hijack it. This is next level stuff and it's already reality. So what they're going to do is use this whole neural link. That's what it is. Neural link, neural network, everything's about programming your brain. And they're going to use the food to introduce it to you. So you're going to be saturated. They've already done the test runs of, people have been talking about smart dust for a while. They've already been putting it in the products. They know how to track it. And now it's going to be an interactive layer between you and the Internet of Things. And you're not even going to notice this. And this stretches all the way
No,
over into genetics because that's what these robots are for.
wait, Ransom, I was going to say perhaps the people are maybe all these allergies and these things that we have going wrong with us are an indication that whatever carbon is not interacting with us correctly because with cellulose there's only a certain amount you can digest, and that's why food fillers can only go to a certain percentage with cellulose, because after that you'll start to get an upset stomach, indigestion, blockage, these sort of things if it goes over a certain level. They've tested this to the nth degree, and that's why your foods are so much more full of fillers. They're trying to save money, but again, there's
Right.
only as far as you can go before the human really every single person will start to show some sign of it being something wrong with that food. So think about the nano dust and like what's happening with everybody's human bodies here now.
I think the foods aspect of it is just to put you in a state where you're vulnerable to the technology. So the technology is going to come out through the healthcare industry via numerous products, injectable products, and we're talking customized DNA programmed by different people, all the way to synthetic DNA. And then that is going to interact with this Internet of Things on basically a cellular level. I mean, these are high-tech robots that are the size of a sand. Now that's quite a bit bigger than your cells and your biology. However, it can be introduced into you different ways, and I don't think you would know it. And when we go back to 2020, we were talking about the possibility that if you had these programmable machines, All you would need is a population that was saturated in a couple of different things to aid this technology to connect and build things literally within you. And all you would need is a super high plastic content. And, we all know that the forever chemicals and plastic saturation is worldwide now. So it's in everything. It's
It
in
is,
you.
right.
And then you needed a content of heavy metals, specifically the kind that you build tech with.
Barium, strontium, aluminum, silver,
I'm just saying, now we're at the point where
black, carbon dust, carbon
it's
black,
right. It's not arguable.
hyperconductive graphene.
Yeah. And it's all demonstrated already. You can go look at the videos where
Well, which blockchain is this going to be running on anyway? That would be interesting to know.
I'm starting to think that we are the blockchain. Like I said, we're
Yeah,
we're
right.
going to
We're
be
the
the
node.
power source to transition to this other civilization.
I talked
And
about
then,
that back in 2017, saying we were going to be the node eventually. We were.
well, it's here.
And it's here already. That didn't take long. Check.
And then this is another one of a
My brain's
prediction
rewiring.
on your show. I talked about this a long time ago. How Japan's treaties are done with the people they had treaties with, so they could rebuild their military, and they have a very sophisticated rocket program that they've been using to launch satellites in since the late 80s or something like that. They also so happen to have some of the most large amounts of refined uranium and things to run their power. Now they can just combine those two, and now they're openly saying we want to put the warheads on the end of our rockets. So that'll change the whole game there in the South China Sea. I mean,
Hey, can you click on the Jakarta thing? I want to see if they have any images of Jakarta. On the very top is it Jakarta ranks as the world's okay. So that now is the third largest city. Is that right? Slips to third. Jakarta ranks world's largest city as Tokyo slips to third place. So Jakarta is now the largest city. I think that's Japan, that image there. I just wanted to see the images of the cities. That's all I wanted to see.
Oh yeah. Let's see if they got more.
Yeah, so that's Tokyo downtown. That's it.
It's Tokyo.
That's all I have.
You get one picture.
Yeah, it's Kyoto News. Yeah, isn't that like such a headline grabber? But when you get there, it's like one little tiny picture that doesn't even show like the depth and breadth of Tokyo, which is incredible, massive, man. You have no idea how big it is, really. You're like space, you're still looking super close in on that thing. But you think they would have a more like image grabbing picture than the headline grab more than the image. Usually it's the opposite, right?
Yeah, I watched Johnny Mnemonic. Is that what it was with Johnny? What's the guy's name from The Matrix? It's funny because it's another movie with Keanu Reeves. Yeah, right. So I watched that movie, and in that movie they were storing, all kinds of data in these little hard drives in their head. And that was 2022. And I remember watching it and telling my kid, look, this is what they thought 2022 looked like. They were just off by a couple of years, though. Now we're there, and we're growing brains and robots and brains, combining the two technologies. And then on top of that, the way that we built up this revolution of robotics was mixed with China. So both of us have products in each other's stuff. And, they're all worried about Trojan horses.
What about Guns and Butter, man? Guns and Butter. It's all a stage play. It's all a stage show. Guns and Butter and stage play.
And this one's one you predicted. Right here.
Oh yeah, the Arctic route. Well, that was so easy to see, man. They wouldn't spend that much money building all that stuff in the Arctic if they weren't going to put a route up there. Come on now.
Right.
It's like building way out through the deserts, out from like New York out to California, and going, we're never going to use the road. We're just building it because. Like, what the hell? Come on.
Yeah, right. And this is why we want Greenland, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the whole Greenland trip right here. This is what it's all about.
It is. Wait a second. If I could just explain the super simplest thing. Between China and Russia, the whole Arctic is theirs. They just go back and forth unmolested. The U.S. military is not up there. Not allowed up there. It's not any coastal thing there. Even if they're there, they're interfering because they're way on the other side. We got no country, shouldn't even be there. And plus, we don't have the icebreakers. They got massive icebreaker fleets. Russia's been building them. China's been building, and we got like 2. We share between the Southern Hemisphere and the Antarctic, and then 3 maybe now if they finish one in the shipyard repairing. We got nothing. That's called the Arctic route for anybody who wants to do more information searching. And that was fully dominated by Russia and China, and it cut off all the transit through the Suez Canal, cut all the transit off of anything going through the Panama Canal. And they just went straight across the Arctic versus having to go all the way around the middle of the world, come back through all those choke points, Malacca Straits, all that. They just went right over the Arctic to the end. It was like weeks faster, and I think it was something like 60% of the fuel savings of going the long routes. Now, you think we'd leave that unmolested because we're in to save the planet, but of course.
Well, think about it.
No.
The only thing between us and Russia is Canada, and almost no one does this, but go on Google Earth and look at the Earth from the perspective of the North Pole, and you realize that Russia and then China. So the United States is like China and Canada is like Russia. And we're just like neighbors, real close to each other in the North. From that perspective, everybody thinks, that's way across the world, but it's not. It's just north of us. It's not that far away, north and south. That's why they
East
want that.
and west. Let me see if I can find you a map that is the best. I was trying my
they're like
best doctor.
They're like our neighbors to the north. But yeah, everybody thinks about this other direction. We're actually closer from the North Pole there. And that's why we want Greenland. It's no mystery why we're wanting to acquire that, because that would put a stop to basically Russia and China being able to control the pole, because they do at this point. Because the only thing in between us and them is a couple NORAD stations in Canada.
It is. Ransom, where'd those slideshow go to? I can't find it on the right bar there any longer.
Let's see here.
You can add it in there. I'm trying to get to it. I already uploaded those slides. I just don't see them anywhere. Excuse us. Technical difficulty with the slides here.
I don't see it. Just add it again.
I will add it again.
If
I can find it again. Anyway, I did have some images about what the mineral reserves were in Venezuela there. But I'm going to have to add this. Maybe that's it. No. I'm going to have to re-upload the scene there. Never mind. I will try to get it. So it's not so much about everybody's talking about oil. It's not so much just about oil. It is about
strategic location.
All the minerals there, all the minerals. So if we go down to page 34 here, I do believe.
Man, I wish I could buy a beef hamburger for 15 cents.
I know. See, this map was in the 1940s, if you don't know. This created by Scott Howard, accessed from the Cornell Library, Technicate of America, 1940. So here's the plan already. And, you talked about Club of Rome, and that was in the 70s. I mean, this precedes that, after, like, Bretton Woods is getting put together. And This is at that time. And
there's your Colombia and Venezuela. So you can cinch down the Panama Canal. Mm-hmm. And then, I'm predicting that in 2026, we're going to have a little issue with China over fishing, is what they're going to call it. So there'll be a bunch of boats on one of the west coasts of the Americas, and then they will run into U.S. Navy, and they're going to have some kind of altercation, and they're going to say it's over fishing. Watch.
Well, you can see up in the north there, if you go north of Greenland to where that empty area is, where the perfect circle is, that's where they're running their ships between China and Russia.
Right.
Like, they're coming right in. There's nothing blocking them. They're just going across. Whoosh. But they got this massive fleet of icebreakers to do such a thing. So what that does, it renders that Panama Canal, which used to be like a stranglehold point, useless, because our navies couldn't get up there. We don't have the proper icebreakers. Plus, they wouldn't be allowed. Like, what territorial thing? They could get harassed and chased out of Chinese and Russian territory up there. I mean, we got no need to be up there. They'd be like, what the hell are you doing? Get the hell out. Sorry, you're in our territorial waters, They got that whole Arctic route completely untouched, and no Navy at all there's no U.S. control at all in the Arctic Circle.
And
That's the most important thing to remember.
when you look at that map too, just think about this idea of Russians from the north and the Chinese from the west. If you take out nuclear weapons out of the scenario, what you have is a bunch of naval battles and kinetic battles, and they would take place on the west coast of the US and then through Canada from the north. We'd be facing two enemies. So it was in our interest to make sure that we get control of Venezuela and Colombia's waters, and also Greenland. Those are two, must-have things for survival.
I'm going to say another thing that, thank you for everybody who stayed with me for the Adapt 2030 channel since the beginning around 2014. By the way, on Spotify, check out the Civilization Cycle podcast. Spotify just went over the 600th episode, which used to be Mini Ice Age Conversations, transitioned to the Civilization Cycle. Episode 600 just posted anywhere podcasts are hosted across the net, but specifically on Spotify, where I was talking about since the beginning of the channel. I was saying, as we get into these food shortages, or at the area where we're going to start rotating into, we can't grow enough crops and it's going to be really noticeable and food prices are going to go up. There's going to be migration and the economy is going to have to shift in the world because it can't survive through this change magnetically. Food-driven prices that we're going to go through and have already entered. It's like going through a tunnel. We've already stepped into the tunnel. I was saying there's different bread baskets that were going to be taken at this time. Kazakhstan, Myanmar, the Ukraine, and Venezuela. And these are the areas on the planet that could expand their production at least 50%. And right now, as we see it, they're not doing anything with the minerals down in Venezuela. So you got to look at it in a global sense here. They're sitting on some of the biggest mineral reserves on the planet in terms of rare earths, not so much silver. Their mining is not up to snuff, shall we say, and everything is lagging behind. So they're not using their country properly to get that out of the ground, to put it in the supply chain, to satiate the needs for everybody else on this globalized world. So you just got to go down and take it and put it into production. They were keeping it off the shelf too long. Now, minerals are one thing, oil's another. Everybody's like, oh, oil. It's not about the oil. It's another grow zone on the equator.
I was going
to say, if they can get our American companies down there, like John Deere and all these things, get all the seed supply, all the tractors, that place could just crank, again, 2 crops per year. And then if you go right over through Colombia, and then if they put roads and railroads and oil pipes through the Darien Gap, that 50-mile stretch that doesn't have any infrastructure down there, look at the sea. Everything could be grown in Venezuela, and eventually there'd be enough pipelines going along there where they could take it by pipeline. If we control that thing like we do, let's say Saudi Arabia or Iraq or somewhere in there, those pipelines have been built out. And then, look at BRICS. They're taking pipelines from China all the way to Russia. So would it not be infeasible that we would take pipelines all the way through the existing networks, just reconnect them? Because there's a whole pipeline network in Mexico. There's a whole pipeline network down in Venezuela itself. And then it's through there, there's smaller ones, sections, just connect those. Then you got all the oil and gas. But then you need to think about the agriculture there too, where if our grow zones go offline or get diminished like they are now, because of these cold weather patterns returning through our Midwest grow belt in Canada up to Alberta, even if those fail or decrease by 20%, 30% production, it won't matter. We just move that production down into Venezuela. It's all connected by road. It's all connected by rail. Shit. We could probably do a lot of the stuff cheaper down there, putting down the warehouses and the drying and the dehydrating and that sort of processing, turn it into milling and flour. The wages will be less down there. Then all that food comes back up to America.
Right.
Yeah. Forget the oil, man. You're looking in the wrong place. If you're looking at the oil, I'm sorry, you're looking in the wrong place. And Ransom, let me throw up a slide that maybe you could talk about. Growing the food on the equator to bring up what we're losing is one thing. But now check out, this is the mineral ore deposits. Can you make that a little larger? Let's try to get that one out. The mineral and, like I said, I'll turn myself off too, just so you can look at this thing large here just for a minute. Silver's not really on this list, but apparently there are silver deposits that have not really been touched or scraped except for like artesian miners and bandits, pretty much going for the veins. Now, this area really hasn't been explored. Where that buffer is, where it says Brazil, that whole area has been, prospectors get killed going in there. It's not an area you go. That's why they have private, I wouldn't say armies, but bands of people with arms going in there to do the gold mining. It's very artesian like that. There's gold, that fourth or fifth one down. You got a bunch of rare earth minerals, but you don't have any silver. But that silver is down there where it says Santa Elena. I can't read that. It's too small. De Ugarian. Down in that area, if you go to the north and east where it's that black where it rises in elevation, that's where the silver's supposed to be. Not even mined or touched. That's the whole thing, is like none of their resources are being utilized to come into the global economy. Hey, we need silver. Dude, you're not even mining any silver. We're going to come down and take your silver out of the ground for you and put it into the global economy because you're not doing it. You're cheating the world. See, this is what's so scary is
You turned yourself off.
Oh, I did? No, I turned
There
myself
you go.
on, man.
There you go.
It's the first act of global governance here coming in to say that we're in a global united world. One world government has just started. You have your resources there, but you're not utilizing for the rest of the planet. Our stock markets, our shareholders, our bondholders, and most of all, our economies and the dominance of the dollar shall reign supreme. And by you not contributing your gold and silver and metals and oil to the American empire, you are defying us. That is like defying the king. I'm coming in to crush the Duke.
Well,
Crush the Duke.
you could obviously tell that there was some kind of deal for this whole area at the equator. All that happened is we changed administrations, and a different group is saying we're going to utilize that. And I was going to say that a little while ago too.
By force. We're forcing it to be used.
Well, we allowed them
here. There's no like I want to sell you my stuff. We're forcing it at the barrel of a gun.
It's
the first play in world government, man.
It's like they did a good job of lawyering. So what happened through the Biden administration and even Obama, they let a lot of Chinese assets move into Venezuela, Russian assets, Iranian assets. And then when we changed administrations, we thought, maybe it's not a good idea that they have all of that. And I was going to say that before, that whole northern area that's not included in this, in the red lines there, the northern area is all prime farmland.
Huge. They do cattle grazing. They do crops. They do everything.
And I've already heard,
if you look offshore on the oil, if you look at the oil blocks offshore, that's what everybody's focused on, because once they get to Guyanan oil, they used to have a refinery down in St. Croix, U.S. company, mobile, all these different companies involved with that, and then like this area could help reset part of the planet, Jenny, of the dollar intact, at least for now. We're going by force now to make things come in and be used in the global economy. There's no more dictators holding back their stuff for their people. This is the first act of violent global governance to come out and at gunpoint go, we got more power than you. You haven't put the minerals on. We've asked you a million times. We'd offer you carpets of gold, bro. And you kept saying, no, we're going to come in and those minerals are going to the global market now. You are out of there and somebody shall replace you. That is a global puppet that shall play now. Thank you.
And you know what? We've looked at a bunch of these maps too. They have methane deposits and, all kinds of resources. But this is kind of the takeaway right here. Let's see here.
But that's it.
We weren't the only.
It's so in your face.
We weren't the only. Yeah, we weren't the only players that were after that. And this is exactly what I was saying, that the reason that we're taking Venezuela is because we have to control that Panama Canal shipping lane, period. And the Chinese and the Russians were already moving in. And matter of fact, what we didn't even really go to war or attack the Venezuelan government per se, because the majority of it was Cuban based. And then, the second in command, the second guy in communist command there, he's a Colombian, Maduro. He was just put in as a tough guy by Chavez that everybody forgot about. But you remember they embarrassed us. Chavez embarrassed us because he took all of the oil platforms, kicked everybody out, and they had all these contracts that were like 50-50. So the Venezuelan government would take 50% and the oil industry would take the other 50%. And that's a better deal than usually anybody gets. They don't even give American owners of land that kind of deal. It's more like a 80-30. But they did that. And then when the communists took it over, Trump used that as a legal lawfare. Look what they did to us. We're just seizing back our own assets, and now we're going to get restitution. But we're going to be nice, and we're going to share the profits like we were before if maybe you let us open up some of this farmland, let us use our tech companies, all of that stuff. Maybe even create a couple of smart cities like they've already done on the other side of the Panama Canal in Costa Rica and El Salvador, where they're converting that whole thing to a digital currency utopia where you can go down and buy land and things are becoming stable all of a sudden when they were unstable. And we talked about that kind of ad nauseum all year, how they moved out giant populations, but the tech companies want back in. And that's true all the way the equatorial band. You could just look at all the way around it. The same thing is happening.
People becoming wealthy don't complain. Like when they noticeably become more wealthy and better off, and it's actually noticeable on a daily basis, they don't complain. It has to go down really tremendously before people complain. But think about that. You're eating cats and dogs right now in Venezuela. It can't get really much worse. It's going to get better. So imagine come down and then suddenly you have everything you need. Nobody, like American supermarkets just start, there's no more lack of food. You have as much food as you could possibly eat. It'll never go scarce again. I mean, we're going to flood you with food in all the supermarket chains. You're going to get all this money in restitution. You're going to take part of the oil field profits. It's going to be like a carbon credit allocation and universal basic income kind of rolled into one. And people are just going to start sitting back, living the good life. Like, whoa, we got food. We got to, and they're going to do all these housing projects. You got the 3D. That's like a 3D printer with get some kind of fiber mixed with concrete. They're going to be 3D printing all these neighborhoods and parks and like these, everything's going to be utopian-ish. And you'll watch the standard of living just go through the roof. I mean, so fast. So it'll be like Dubai, something even faster than that, where you can actually see it in real time. And it's sometimes in China as well, at the beginning of the century, all the way through 2008, like in real time, you can see it go right in front of you. There's going to be another one of those because they want people down there to be able to grow food and not disrupt the food and the agricultural production that is going to be so much more needed than the oil. Oil is just like a second, great, we got it. It's like when you're mining copper and you get gold too. And you're like, damn, thanks for the gold too. It wasn't the main thing. We're really going for the copper, but it's got some gold. The main thing is going to be for the food production. Remember, through history, if your populace doesn't eat, you get overthrown every single time. So what's more important, $5, $10 a gallon gasoline? Yeah, people yell, they protest, or having no food or less food, or people start to riot in the cities. Oh my. I would choose give them $10 gas and let them eat cake in the same place in the parking lot. So that's it.
That's absolutely true. That's what's going on in Iran right now. I think their people are finally tired of, kind of
hungry.
Well, yeah, that's the main thing. But for all this time, they've been told to be this weird kind of nationalist and isolationist, and they never wanted that. I mean, you can look at the 70s in Iran. They were a totally different kind of civilization. They got taken over. They tried something new. It didn't work out. And now they have buyer's remorse. Plus, there was a little, if you remember, there was a little tinkering by the U.S. and the British.
The Shah ordering this dude. I kid you not. This guy was so atrocious with his money. The Shah of Iran would order dinners flown in on the Concorde from Paris over to Iran and to Tehran. Can you believe that? would order dinners flown from Paris directly with private chefs to come in and feed him. That's how outrageous it was. And that's why people were like, dude, you gotta go. We can't even eat, and you're flying in dinner from Paris. Come on, man. Too much. That
Yeah.
was way over the range. Like, if you start to see that over the range, time to throw your leader out.
And then think about this in a transformation. A booze ban since the 50s is quietly being lifted in Saudi Arabia. Why is that? Because it's being westernized, while the Western world is being
Is
Middle
being
Eastized,
Yeah.
if that's a word, if you know what I mean. So all of the radical kind of factions that want to create certain kinds of new law formats in the land that they move to, they're gone. So these guys, they're open for business. Bring your business, come over here. Guess what? We'll even let you drink, because the equator's where it's at, seemingly in the near future.
Certainly is, especially if you're going to not be able to grow crops as efficiently at like 40 north or 40 south. You want to go to the equator. Like, think about an ice age. Dude, if it gets cold and weather changes, it's icy and dry,
Right.
you're going to want to go to the equator. Why do we always want to go on holiday in the Caribbean? Because it's warm and fun. Why do we want to go to a Mediterranean holiday in the middle of winter in a South Island? Because it's fun. It's warm.
Right.
Same thing. What do you think is going to happen with the food? Where's the food going to grow? Question. It's going to grow where it's warm and sunny. And if you have one of those grow zones under control, or one that's maybe regulated by water bodies like the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, that might make sense too. You might have a better yield than a lot, because that water body regulates the temperature and sort of the moisture flows around there. Oh, wait, we're in the Caribbean too. Oh, it's warm and sunny down on the, well, it's not exactly the equator, but a couple
Right.
degrees off isn't bad. All
I'm
year
actually,
growing for the food, believe that. Double rotation crop.
I'm actually expecting kind of a anti-government uprise to pop off in Cuba this year as well.
They're
Because
hungry. Well, it's so easy to do that when people are hungry. You don't get it. Like, please, if you're listening to this thing, the reason the dictators are getting overthrown right now is because everybody's getting hungry. Notice that. Cuba,
Right.
they're going to get hungry, overthrow the government. Iran, they're getting hungry, overthrow the government. What happens if we in America lose our grow belts due to a 400-year low in solar activity, where our jet streams go out of flow and we can't grow but maybe like 50% or 60% of what we normally grow for years on end, and the whole globe's like that? We are
Well,
absolutely going to go to a place where we can grow more food. Whoever owns the food and the electricity for the AI data centers wins, period.
think about this scenario.
Food
Right
and
now, you got you know, outside the country influences and leftists kind of trying to make things unstable, with us wanting to remove said people from the equator and make them go back home. So there's all of this destabilization going on right now. But wait till the near future, speaking of food, when some leftist acting as a foreign operator or just a brainwashed tool lights fire to a giant field of corn or wheat or something like that in the Midwest, thinking that, they're getting back at those conservative farmers and their, bad ideas and stuff like that. You could quickly see how things could go sideways. Yeah. If you had some kind of uh, terrorist aspect putting a wrench into the wheels there of the food production here at home. And maybe that's why we're trying to expand out and get some redundancies going on. Maybe in Venezuela, if we could get Mexico, if we could work out things with Mexico right now, because we're probably going to have some action similar to Venezuela in Mexico soon. But if we work things out, I bet there'll be Vedanta resorts opening up in Venezuela in just a few years.
Well, they have the limbo stick with the rum punch, bro. We're on holiday in
Well,
Venezuela, dude. Insta.
we went to one in Mexico on the playa out there in the Yucatan, and it was pretty obvious that when we got there that they wanted to disarm you if you had anything at the resort, but they weren't offering protection. And right about that time, I saw on the news like a couple of raids by cartels where they came up and hit people that were hanging out at the resorts right there on the beach. They just came in with some inflatable speedboats, ran up there, shot a couple people, left. No big deal. And I thought how ironic it is that these people are so concerned about their guests when the guests should be concerned. They should have a gift shop, an Americanized gift shop in the resorts where you could just go pick up like a, a semi-auto MP5 or, a 40 cal or something to take to your bedroom with you. If we would spread Americanism in that way, we could open up resorts all over the world. We just bring the Second Amendment with us.
I need a couple boxes of 9mm hollow point expanding rounds. Thank you.
Vacation edition.
I can trade them off to somebody else who's coming in after I'm leaving.
Perhaps
I'll take an ounce of silver for that.
I think it was probably 10 years ago, I noticed that there was a bunch of ammunition restrictions going on during the Obama administration.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those affected certain kind of bullets. But then I noticed that China started producing ammunition that was like this really bizarre, ammunition for hunting. They were rubber expanding Teflon coated bullets that you would load in your own shot, right? Or you could put it in your 410 or your 12 gauge or 10 gauge, whatever. But it was a little tiny piece of rubber that would expand out to the size of a grapefruit. And you could pick those up at Walmart. And it was almost like China was like, here you go.
Let the birds have that.
But anyway, I put up this NASA article.
Let me interject here. Thank you for everybody listening so far. Excuse me. Please sign up for our newsletter. Go to civilizationcyclepodcast.com. Civilization it's free to sign up and support independent journalism. Right there, we're putting a QR code up. And the support also if you like to share ideas, and then we'll give you 10 bullet points of things we talked about in the show. We're moving fast through a lot of different topics. But think about joining the show notes here, and I'll send those out to you every single week. Careful with your information because I want you to be careful with mine, so I'm careful with yours. And Ransom, anything else?
No.
You got a dovetail on that, man.
Sounds good, man. Don't mess with perfection. No, I was going to say before we go to break here in a minute, I just wanted to show you this last thing because it's kind of like something you were telling me about several times. And you remember a while back, I brought it up again when they said the space station was having some kind of leaking problems with their air filtration or something. They had to get it fixed or they were going to have to evacuate. But then that went away and we sent up a bunch more people. And then now we got this, everybody's got to come home from the space station here from medical situation. Wasn't that a thing you were talking about?
Remember Ed Dames? Remember what Ed Dames, the remote viewer, had talked about when people from the space station get forced down, we're going to have a very large solar flare and EMP that'll come in directly after that.
Could be.
That was from Ed Dames, not me. I'm just saying the remote viewer who trains the remote viewers. Come on now, it's true, dude. I saw it on the internet.
That's here, let me get rid of that. No, I was just thinking how ironic
he did say that.
Ironic that stuff like that's happening.
Ed Dames talking about that.
Can I ask you a question though? I mean, seriously, to the audience too. Are we really saying we're going to space in these things? I mean, you remember what the old thing looked like, and then one day Tesla
looks like the Jetsons, man.
SpaceX just came out with this motorcycle suit, right? And then all of a sudden we're just going into space and there doesn't seem to be any, sealing or technology on there. It just looks like they're wearing a pants and a shirt with a helmet on, some gloves. Is that how we do it now?
Everything's an illusion. They're trying to get you to believe this. Now your mind can actually believe it. It's kind of like that Star Trek episode where they had Kirk in there and he's like, how many lights do you see? And he's like, I see 4 lights. And he goes, no, you see 5.
Yeah.
And at the end, he's like, I only see 4 lights. Damn it. They tried to change his mind and like shock him if he said the wrong number and wouldn't let him eat and everything. And like, how many lights do you see? And he goes, I see 4 or whatever. Right. That's the same thing. They're trying to get you to believe that. Those are spacesuits. Those are spacesuits. No, they're not. Those are spacesuits. I'm surprised I'm not getting shocked by a cattle prod back here or something.
Yeah, you're going to get the phone call, man.
Oh, no. And for those of you in 2026, shall I read a underlined sentence, which I just found? I didn't know I had. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Great success came just one step beyond at the point which defeat had overtaken them. More than 500 of the most successful men this century, and he's talking about from 1900 to the year 2000, has ever known, told the author, failure is a trickster and a keen sense of irony and cunning. It takes delight in tripping one when success is almost within reach, meaning if you just take that one more step after trying, if you failed at something, then that's when the success is grasped. So don't give up, because I do believe that the illusion is what they're trying to portray as being reality, but I don't believe it. I'm going to go to slide 17. Don't believe it. I can't go to slide 17. Help. I'm stuck in the matrix. Ransom. Let me see if I can go to slide 17 for you, because
you're on screen. Yeah,
there you go. I got you.
There it is.
It's not the end of the world. It's the end of the illusion. And I truly mean that. What we're seeing is the end of you believing all this illusionary things that they fed us for 40 or 50 years is truth. Like, that is all breaking and reforming itself. And they're trying to force a new truth upon us. You and me, everybody. But now it's driven by AI, on-demand social media posting. So again, in addition to what I was talking about with 40% of the power in the Northeast going to AI data centers, we need the AI for corporations to get more money in their AI pricing. We need it for the military. And now we're going to need it for all this on demand to try to bend your reality of something that it's not, of all these fictitious things are real, but they're not. But it's going to take an enormous amount of data for on demand 8 billion people to understand what you're thinking, surfing to whip something up just for you to sway your opinion in a certain way. That's going to take a sheet ton of electricity to do that as well. I just don't know where all of this bandwidth, power, and electric's coming from, because think about just those few things we talked about in the first hour here, of how those had dovetailed into just a massive amount. When the military really starts cranking on this, and the language models themselves are cranking on it, and it's used for power delivery, information delivery. I mean, where's all this extra power coming from? I just don't get it. Do you think they'll roll something new out in terms of 0-point energy or magnetic motors and this sort of thing to try to bring us, oh, we don't need that old system anymore, we had this whole new one that we just invented here? It would not make, because you can see the entire system is broken right now, not being repaired, shattered as Humpty Dumpty, not coming back together, never meant to. It's meant to transition into something else, but at the same time, your mind has to go there with you, or first in front, and to get you to believe so many myths, truths, that when you step in the new world, you'll accept almost anything in terms of what reality is. And then, oh, heavens forbid, if they start blending you with technology, you already have mind melted anyway from the transition. Right. And then if they start attaching tech, then like you say, you're already been like softened up. So where's the smart dust and where's the tech, implantable tech come? You're getting softened up the whole way, every way. And every social media post that you see directed at you, just for you, is softening you up for this new world. So join us for the second hour here of the Civilization Cycle podcast. I saw Ransom wanted to talk there. I would. Please take us out. And please remember, everybody, thank you so much for being here, and sign up for the newsletter. 10 bullet points of what we've spoken about. civilizationcycle.com. Just go right down into your email there. And also, we have all the newest episodes on the show player, and we've just gone over episode 600 on that. Episode 601, inbound, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. We'll be right back after the short break. Please support our sponsors. They support us. That way we can bring you this information. It's one of those win-win-win loops. So we'll see you in a couple minutes. Take 2 and 2.
We've been told that tooth decay and gum disease are inevitable. But what if they're not? What if everything you've been taught about invasive treatments to restore your smile was a myth? As a bioterrain physician and herbalist with over 40 years experience, I'm well aware that teeth are living tissues that connect to every other part of the body. Your overall health starts in your mouth. This is why I've created nature's perfect formula to remineralize the teeth and heal the gums. Using a blend of powerful ancient oils and minerals, along with the latest and cutting-edge herbal technologies, I formulated the ultimate natural tooth serum to ensure a bright smile and healthy gums.
This is not a toothpaste. It's a revolution for your teeth. Remineralize, strengthen teeth, all natural ingredients, essential oils, minerals, salts. Alfa Vedic Dental Solutions System. That's alphavedic.com/civilization. You know, we're always trying to bring you the best products here that we think will enhance your life, especially if supply chains break down further or if there's some disruption in our lives here. It seems in the news more and more possible, but hey, who knows? Maybe it's a mind game. But what is not is keeping your dental health up. And not a lot of people are talking about this. We always see the storable foods. But what about dental care during these same emergency situations? Will your toothpaste eventually run out? Well, if it does, then what? So like I say, this whole micro gut biome is driven by your oral cavity first. So take a look at what they have, alphavedic.com/civilization. Every purchase you make helps keep our live radio show and podcast on air, bringing you more information just like this. alphavedic.com/civilization. That link is in the show notes below. And as always, I appreciate your valuable time and joining us in this ever and most important conversation as we move forward in our world.
Please remember to sign up for our show notes. With Civilization Cycle podcast, you can learn what to expect as society resets. Agriculture, economy, tech, and history all have mappable cycles, and these cycles affect every aspect of our lives. We can navigate the chaos and thrive together with up-to-date news and information. Also, if you like the content we have here on Civilization Cycle, think about fueling the discussions and the show by buying us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Civilization Cycle. And thank you for all the support.
And welcome back for the second hour right here, the Civilization Cycle podcast, bringing it to you every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight, streaming off Rumble, over on X, on the Civ Cycle channel over there, YouTube as well, the Civilization Cycle podcast channel. Just before we're going to break, trying to think about how this global, I wouldn't say lockdown, but the global change that we're seeing to the point now, global governance is in charge where it's taking minerals and resources from a country for the global government, the global investment circles, the global stock markets, bond markets, and currency trade itself is integral to having those resources extracted out of it and put into play. So it's by force now that to put those minerals and all those valuable assets into play so the rest of the world can use it to stop from a free fall collapse. But here's another thing. This one off Zero Hedge as well. The U.S. expands list of countries subject to visa bonds of up to $15,000. You know, in the show notes I just sent out this evening was talking about one of the notes that we had spoken about last or 2 weeks ago was travel is going to be relegated back to the wealthy classes. Because you think about the 1940s and 50s, only the wealthy traveled. They're the only ones who could. And you look at those photos from the time era, everybody was dressed in suits and top hats, and it was very, let's say, more than first class, or at least, you know, it's something very different, the style at that time. It was only a certain segment of the population could travel. We're going to revert back to that because they're going to do carbon offset credits you need to purchase with your airplane ticket. 50% of air travel is forecast to decline down to, we'll only have half of the air travel left that we currently have, which will open up all these private jet services. But in the purchase price to get that, you'll have to get the carbon offset credits. Now, as they continue to lock, and well, not even lock, it's just strangle down your ability to travel unless you're ultra wealthy. A lot of these countries like Cote d'Ivoire, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and all these African nations, a lot of the Middle Eastern nations are on this list as well. So let me ask you a question. If you're from Algeria, can you come up with 15,000 US as a travel bond to put in advance of you coming to America. How about you and your 2 kids? Can you find $60,000 to put down cash as a bond that you'll leave America? And Angola and Barbuda and Bangladesh and Benin, Burundi, Cabo Verde, Cote d'Ivoire, Cuba, Djibouti, Dominica, Fiji, Gabon, Kyrgyzstan, Nepal, Nigeria, Senegal, Tajikistan, Togo, Tonga, Tuvalu, Uganda, Vanuatu, Venezuela, and Zimbabwe, formerly known as Rhodesia. All these nations, every time one person wants to come to America, you have to put a bond of 15,000 US. And I was reading the article, and if you send it in advance of thinking you're going to get your visa just because you send it in advance, they're going to keep that money. They're not going to return it to you because it says you can only send it after we say you can send it. So if you send it in advance or by accident and you don't get approved, they're not going to return your money. This is what I'm talking about. Not a global lockdown like it was during COVID, but this is a financial lockdown of the planet. These are the types of things we talk about and send off in the show notes, but abbreviated clip points for that. Please check out the newsletter, civilizationcycle.com. Also the player there, Spotify. We're coming up above the 600th episode, so head on over there, give us a little support, and we'll get you those show notes every single week. So Ransom, thanks for coming back. Second hour. I just wanted to start off with that, because we're coming into the globalized world now. We're absolutely in globalization at the front of a gun to extract resources for the full planet. And also now the constriction of most everything in the ways and the abilities that we could travel. Let me see if I can find you another slide here. Oh, I do have one. I'd like your comment on this if I could. Anybody out there as well? When you hear carbon offset credit, you think a ton of something like concrete is being produced and then it produces 1 ton of CO2. And if I plant trees or if I buy somebody who has a forest, like David has a forest, I'll get some carbon offset credits. I'll have a few extra, every year because my forest can be, sequesterer of carbon. So I get paid every year, even though the trees just do what they do. But I have some of those I can sell to somebody else, or look at all the carbon credit. I thought it was just CO2 from like industry. But look around it, refrigerant. Okay, if you're going to use an old refrigerator, you're going to have a carbon offset credit to use an older type of refrigerator with a different refrigerant in it. And I'm wondering how they're going to accomplish that and know what kind of refrigerants you have in your devices in your home, unless they're like smart dust and everything can be seen in real time and tagged and cataloged using AI through like Wi-Fi routers or planes that are going or whatever they're doing with satellite mapping. But imagine the amount of data crunching that would take and how much electricity and AI it would take to scan through your home and apply all 170 types of carbon credit to every single thing that is in your home, from the carpet to the drywall to the doors to anything you have in your TV, the computer, the phone, whatever it is. And then they just send you a bill and that's it for your carbon offsets this year. All AI driven and priced too, all AI priced just for you. That's the world we're heading into. Think about the amount of electricity that's going to be required for that.
Right. What I really think about this whole carbon idea is that once the Earth has one of its extreme winters where everybody across Europe and America feels it, that is going to disappear in popularity about as fast as parachute pants did. I think people are starting to see the silliness of the breathing tax.
Is there a breathing tax included on that, Ransom? I tried to read through a bunch of them, and
the whole
came
thing
down
is
to the
basically
regulars, but
it's like a life tax. Anything you're doing, which is basically a breathing tax. That's what it's always been. Trying to pitch ideas of taxation on carbon, which is something that we breathe out and we're made of, in a sense, saying that we're poison. So I think that's just, I'm telling you, we're going to have one real crippling winter in the next couple of years. And that is just going to lose so much popularity that people will start to get scoffed at for trying to be part of this warming agenda and climate change programs and the whole thing. I mean, basically, the euro is about to dissolve, and they are the main bodies that push almost all of this.
I wanted to point out a couple things. If you look at the green at like maybe the 8 o'clock position there, you see where it says
Right.
public transportation. So they've been trying to push everybody to public transportation, but irregardless, they're going to start raising ticket prices, doubling and tripling the fares for even just the lowest earners on the planet here, because they're going to start including these carbon offset credits and these carbon credits inside even public transportation. So the companies will have to pay that for the fuel they're using and their electricity they're consuming for electric vehicles, and they're going to pass that on to the riders. So if you think, oh, I'll just use public transportation, your tickets are about to get double or triple more expensive. And also, Ransom, if you saw the methane one as well down there, I wanted to jump into a different slide if I could, because you had the methane on the low where it was talking about public transportation. You see where it says livestock methane down there?
Yeah.
I pulled this. Yeah, I
Sparks.
pulled this one up. I pulled this one off of Zero Hedge earlier today, or was it a couple days back? They're not, the makers of Bovaer are being sued by cattle ranchers in Denmark because this is an enzyme inhibitor, but the cow's digestive system, which evolved over millions of years, they put a quarter teaspoon of this stuff into the feed, and it turns off the digestive system pretty much of the cows, and they don't produce any methane. But the way that it's circulating and breaking down in the cows' multiple stomachs is it produces methane. That's just part of how it works.
Is this the same thing that's connected to the meat allergies?
It could be.
Watch, go back to that slide.
Yeah. They say it's effective, and this is the whole thing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, they said safe and effective.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to
Proven
say.
safe and effective, but the cows are falling over dying. They stopped producing milk. So the ones that didn't die stopped producing milk down to, I mean, tremendously low levels. And then there was just an enormous amount that couldn't handle that. And that's what I'm saying, this nanodust. A lot of people are showing like physical problems with that stuff, right? There's and the cellulose, if you eat too much cellulose, your body's going to show it to you and you're going to get sick. Well, these cows are getting something that's absolutely shown that the chemical that they're eating is making them totally sick. Bovaer, and Bovaer's feed supplement temporarily inactivates one of these enzymes that results in lower methane production, i.e. it turns off the digestion of the cows.
And they have
now the farmers are able to prove harm because it's not safe and effective, and the cows are just dropping like flies. So now there's a class action lawsuit against the makers of Bovaer, but you're not hearing about this because, well, that would be bad for the brand newest thing that just came out. We're going to cut the methane because the Bovaer. This was a huge thing going on in England, where they were trying to show every farm across the UK that was using Bovaer in the cattle feed. I think it's pretty evident because you go up and go, half our herd died. Okay, you were using Bovaer, weren't you? So this is the kind of thing that's happening in Europe right now, specifically. Now it's transferred over to Denmark, but it happened in England first. Now it's the Danish are experiencing it, and all around that area, I should say, of Western Europe.
And what's funny is I think that they're trying to cut off the methane because, the methane is tied to the flatulence and poop, right? Which is fertilizer. I think what they're really meddling with is trying to stop the cattle and the livestock from producing its own fertilizer that you can use to grow your own crops.
Yeah, then you become more dependent. Now it works to a point, but having what we have, a chemical and nitrogenous fertilizers, that's just a hugely different thing than even if we had a whole heap of cow dung, like a Himalaya size, compared to what we have with modern fertilizers. Oh my gosh, there's such a huge difference that at 30-1 or something would be different. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because Club of Rome, but you go back to that map of Tecnocrate de America that was done, or however you say it in the German, Tecnocrate de America. 1940 map. They already knew that they were going to take Venezuela, Colombia, all of South America, Canada, and Greenland up there along with us. That was the 1940s. But then we always hear about Club of Rome. So something had preceded Club of Rome by 3 to 4 decades on this Malthusian ideas, and now we're coming into the global governance of we're going to take it, we're going to use it globally. But as you look at the ideological foundations and then the bureaucratic buildup, now this is on the climate side of things. So limit to growth came out, but this was already in the plan too, that there would be some exponential growth, and then eventually we'd need more resources. So we'd come down to a global governance structure to take the resources and put them on the global market for the good of everybody globally, at least the Western empires, I should say, not so much China and Russia. But then after 72, they built this thing up, UNEP, creates United Nations environmental arm of things. Then we got Rio Earth, and then the United Nations panel on climate change, the framework conventions pops in 1988 to 1992. And that's really when we started to hear about it. And I was thinking, and then the Al Gore movie came out later after that, Kyoto Protocol, and this is really ramping up. And then you could see Paris agreements, 2015. But between then the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris agreements, the Al Gore movie and his little trolley going up is going to be way up here. And Trump just said, "Oh, we're out of it." It's a cycle in the sun that's denting food production. That's why we need Venezuela. David knows, Ransom knows. We're going to be some of their advisors.
Well,
Thank you,
if
Mr.
the
Trump,
weather
for bringing this
changes,
on advisory committee of the Grand Solar Minimum and how it will affect food production and why we need other countries too. Appreciate it.
I might be in a good spot. This looks like the weather's going to change. It's going to get wet in the Southwest again. Temperate, nice temperatures.
So what does that show? That shows that here it's freezing cold, and I got a glass of like warm tea. Because like, when it gets really wet and you get into that bones and the weather's changing, it's coming in big front of rain tonight. You could just feel it all day long, just twisting. And at the end, it just started to get windy and like bone chilling cold. So
yeah, I think we're just barely about to.
No schnapps tonight from the old still, just warm honey tea. So we're out of there. We're out of we're retracting all the frameworks, which we should have. What do you feel about that? That's the whole question.
That this is kind of the whole trilateral thing right here. This is what they were doing in sectors, and we're basically there. That map you showed a little while ago of North America, including Venezuela and stuff. Now, me and you have talked about we're investing heavily in building train tracks and train systems all the way through Bolivia, Peru, down into Argentina, which recently we just kind of bailed into or bailed out, whatever you want to call it, bought in stock in Argentina. So you could tell that we're heavily investing in this whole equator area and then setting up a network so that we could use it. And, a minute ago, you were talking about how only the rich would be getting on those new airplanes that are flown by AI, because they're going to reduce the number of actual aircraft that are flying around, especially, humans. But you had that all tied in, and this is how they do it with your whole money, where you're going, all of it. You'll have something maybe just on your motion sensor down there on your wrist, and instead you just hook up Bluetooth, and they just deduct it from your account. Like you said, you had like one of those transit passes or something. And then it probably has a ticker on your carbon limit of how much you've traveled around throughout the year and how much food you've bought and space you've taken. Meanwhile, all the countries are going to this MAID program idea.
Well, how much do you grow? I mean, do I get an offset for growing? And again, let me bring up another article that's very related to that. EU's carbon border tax goes live. And trade partners are not amused. I wouldn't be amused either. So China's retaliating already, saying your carbon border mechanism tax is not valid. We don't want to pay that. They say the goal of it is to improve competitiveness of European goods against non-EU companies. So they cut off their energy. They have to buy more expensive energy. They laid everybody off, so they have to now rely on foreign workers and pay them higher prices. But now they got to sell their prices at a much higher price. And they're like, well, we are just moving over to a new economy and we're going to charge everybody more money. We need to extract all their wealth. Everything's going to cost so much more. But, oh, by the way, like China can get it to you 70% cheaper. Same exact thing. Oh, no, it's not a fair playing field because they're still using coal over there to get it to a 70% cheaper. And we need to destroy our natural gas pipelines over here and put everybody in the dark still in Germany.
Well, that
And they need a tax to try to even the playing field. So again, it's just nothing more taxes. That's all I can
that
say,
is
more taxes.
that is a really bizarre map if that's supposed to be representing some kind of battles, because
It's
the
representing
places.
cometary tail brushing the planet, starting mega fires in cities map.
Oh,
And the
because that
fires
looked like a World War III map
again,
to me.
I was asking, I was just going to ask if anybody else has heard of this, and if any of these locations are on any of the hot geopolitical spots right now, as if they've already known where they would hit at one time, like perhaps they would know where they might hit in the next cycle. Because if it is something that we spin through in a heavier debris pattern of some leftover comet fragments, and they came in on that right across the northern hemisphere, then you know, well, pretty much southern hemisphere is kind of safe. And you would know maybe where the trajectory was. Well, at least the last big one is the Carolina Bays, but I mean, this is much more in. There's only a few areas. And the Chicago fires were very much the same thing. They said that they saw a comet come whizzing through the sky, and pieces of the comet fell off and caused fires all over the Great Lakes. Now, again, you know, that was the Great Fire of Chicago, again, in the 1800s. So just wondering if there's something about this where these comet debris fields, when they come in, maybe they electrically get pulled into parts of the crust every single time. Just not sure. The magnetic field will be behaving strangely, and perhaps metal deposits or, you know, large swaths of areas that are more magnetized or metallicized in the crust create a electric field, and it pulls that and directs it in there. And maybe that's the mechanism that works. That it's always landing on these spots that have more, say, metal in the earth, just in the crust itself, and that's where the mining areas are. Boom, it would hit in there. It would create its own electric field as it something were to happen to it. All that bauxite or all the iron ore in the crust for, you know, 500 square miles would charge up to something enough to pull that space debris in there. But I'm just, you know, conjecturing with an
Well, I
I
just
N, conjecture in.
thought it was a pretty bizarre map there. I mean, think about it. It's got what is that, Shanghai and probably all around Taiwan toast, DC to Georgia,
Yeah.
you know, like all Atlanta, all of that stuff. It even looks like it's in Tennessee there. And then a
Well, that's
big,
all the Great Lakes there too. The fires as well. That's all the way up to the
right,
Great Lakes
two,
easily.
what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4 basically in the Arctic. And the one that's really kind of trippy there is that giant one above Washington, right over the Cascadian subduction zone. So this would be mostly world ending there.
A normal day of work. Now, these are not implosions like that. These are fires that occurred in the cities. Now, apparently, they're all wood, as they always tell you. The cities are always all wood, and that's the reason they burn down. And you know, yeah, you got to go through history. Everything burned down because it was, you know, made of wood, and all these cities, and you know, it's the way it is. You got to believe it. Tesla's tower, it was all wood. It burned down except for the metal. You know, they can't leave Tesla talking without the radio. Marconi. I mean, these are the kind of buildings that were of the time that were being burned down everywhere. You know, they're pretty advanced. You think they'd have fire suppression systems. If you're building, you know, they try to give us this image of it's just shacks of like just raw cut wood that they slap together with some kind of iron nails they forged out of the forge there when they're banging out horseshoes. And we got to nail some, you know, boards onto a square somewhere and make a house. Not this. Not this same. You know what I mean? Like at the same time, this is what burned. Supposedly, the entire cities of all of this kind of stuff here. And I was looking around. This is in Germany. All these homes are in Germany. And again, you know, the fire bombing over there, what occurred, and you know what has happened with, you know, the wars. It's almost as if all this has been just chosen to be destroyed for some reason. I don't quite know why. Because the maps of the time too. This is a map of Turkey, 1856. I mean, look at this, quite different. Like, look at Turkey owns all the way over to Albania and all that area in what is in the Caucasus, like Kosovo's over there. The Bosnian pyramids, Bosnia, Herzegovina, Serbia and Bosnia. You can see that on the map. That's all where like Croatia is down there today as well. But look how much Turkey is. That's all of like what would be like Montenegro and Albania and Northern Macedonia. That's all part of Turkey right there.
Right.
After the Balkanized, see, I've been wanting to travel over there. I want to go to the pyramids at Vosko or Visoko, excuse me, Visoko in Bosnia to see the Bosnian pyramid. I want to go check it out. I want to get under that thing. I want to look. Not a lot of
You don't,
people have gone there.
you don't want to go over to Transylvania and check out the Vlad Impaler stuff there. It's a little east of
Yeah,
that.
there's, there, and when I was in Czech Republic, there was a story of this castle that you really didn't want to hike it into anywhere remotely, that you would leave anytime past like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Because apparently it was one of those kind of castles where if you didn't leave in time, you'd always get lost in the woods coming out, and people just disappeared all the time. Age, like somebody will go to the castle in the afternoon, get lost in the woods for a day, come out in the morning, and they've aged 80 years with all gray hair. That the life
Wow.
force got completely pulled out of them in a single night. Like not one story, but hundreds of stories like that. Like, dude, you really don't want to go up there. Like, that's a haunted. They even capped it up because there's supposedly demons in the well, and they put somebody in by a rope, and the same thing. Complete life force taken out when they pulled him up. He was like barely at his last breath, almost like a 95-year-old would have been after just minutes in the well. Kind of crazy stuff. That's the same area of Vlad the Impaler. No thanks.
You
No
know,
thanks.
that's really weird. All growing up, the only time I ever heard Transylvania was in connection to like Dracula or Dracula stories. And then I met a Holocaust survivor that was from Transylvania, Romania. How weird.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, she wasn't scared of Transylvania. She was scared of Auschwitz.
12. No way.
She went. Yeah, she was one of the twins, the Mengele twins, and I got a chance to interview her and stuff. But yeah, she was from Transylvania, Romania.
Was she intuitive where she could see all the spirits around
I
in
don't think
those
so.
camps? Would definitely be spooky, because I went into where the hell was I? Down in Cambodia, and the Toll Slag is a museum now, but it's where they tortured everybody. Anybody who had glasses, anybody who could read, anybody who was anything that could have rallied some people around to go against Pol Pot at the time. Even if you could rally like 2 or 3 people or 10 people because you were a teacher, like, yeah, let's go, we can do it. Anybody that
Mhm.
could rally people up that were like breaking outside, they didn't want to get like squeezed in the box of that whole Pol Pot thing and go back and all be farmers again. And they're like, no, we can stop this if we all get together. Like anybody they would catch before they could organize, they got thrown in this place and tortured. Tell me all your friends. Pull all their toenails out. Most of them died in there getting tortured. So that place and being held in like just horrific, man, like days and days and days of crazy shit going on. And like they would just pull people in there. And it was one of those places that the mind would go wild before you even had anything happen to you, because you could hear all the sounds and it's just like crazy stories. But anyway, even just going on the outside perimeter of that place, you could feel it. Absolutely. It's the most spookiest thing. Like all that energy and all those
Right.
people got stuck right there. Like they captured all that energy in the earth. Super scary and spooky. So I'm wondering, like, I could feel it when I was there, if she could also feel something in Auschwitz.
Oh yeah. Well, she
Just
kept
a random
returning
question.
there, but
Mm.
she said that for the first 10 years after she was rescued from Auschwitz, that she had dreams about her parents coming out of her soap and stuff because of the rumors about the soap. So she did have a bad
Please, I'm not
connection there,
repeating those. Family friendly, YouTube. Family friendly. We will not talk about the soap. We will
Well,
talk
if
about
there was
volcanic ash instead.
right.
So here's your
Yeah.
volcanic eruptions, cooling the climate from the 1200s to 2025. I have some better ones than this, but if we look at the big ones, Samalas. Now, Ransom, read them off. I mean, which ones do you know here? And if you're listening to us and you cannot see the broadcast, streaming from Rumble live every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight on the Civilization Echo podcast channel, we're showing the graphic right here. The 13th century got Samalas. 14th, 15th century Kuve'i, 16th, 17th century Huanaputina, and then 18th century Laki, Tambora, Krakatoa, Santa Marina. I can't read the other ones, it was too small and too far. Pinatubo,
Nova Ruta.
And which ones of those do you know that really had a dent on us? So look below, you'll see the effect of the volcano with that blue dip. That's a dip in temperature.
Right. And you know what's really funny about that? Look at all those volcanoes, and you only have the Hunga Tunga one to show in the water,
It's the only one.
right? And then
That's why I made a bad call on thinking the planet would cool. I thought that water would like sink down and cool, and the ice crystals would start to uh, break down the ozone because there was much more water vapor in the mesosphere, and those ice crystal surfaces are perfect for the breakdown of ozone. That O3, when it lands on the ice crystal surface, that chemical reaction could take place. Doesn't really usually just take place while they're floating around banging into each other in literally the air. They usually need a surface to come on. So like when a meteorite will come through and it'll leave some smoke trail, or like a satellite will come through and leave a smoke trail, like those bits of particle that are left over as the re-entry and things burning up in our atmosphere, that's where the ozone can jump onto and then break apart from an O3 molecule. Usually it'll break down as some kind of chlorine, and then you get an O2 molecule, and there's one, ion running around somewhere, bang, 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 trying to grab something else. But if there's enough ice crystal surfaces up there, the amount of ozone is going to come down. They could blame that on chlorofluorocarbons, but this time, because that water vapor put so much water up into the mesosphere, that ice crystals is the catalyst. Now, it did drop to the 5th lowest, but it didn't go to the lowest, which I thought it would, and that was my bad call. I thought that amount of water vapor was going to cause us to go to record low ozone below the spray can hair thing in the 1970s, and people would have picked up on it and been like, what in the hell? How did it go so low? And then you'd already be like, well, the cool climate thing's messed up. If we got the lowest ozone ever recorded after the Hunga Tonga water vapor eruption, all the water's in the mesosphere, and then this doesn't make sense. It's all natural. And I made it because it didn't happen, and I thought it would. So that was my faux pas on the yearly call there.
Well, it looks like, there's obviously a super correlation between these VEI7s and massive cooling. But if you notice right after Krakatoa, the Santa Maria and the Nova Rupta there was no cooling, there was warming. Even though it says, high altitude cooling effect, not on the ground level, I guess there, right?
Well, it is cooling slightly, but it doesn't go into the blue. Like you see, it was sort of trending up and then it gets knocked down a little bit. And it's trending up and it gets knocked down a little bit, but not enough to send off the trend line as it's moving forward. You can see those two dips.
Right.
Under those volcanoes, but it didn't go down like 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees or anything like that Celsius, like others have done.
Yeah, and from what I understand too, depending on what the volcano is spewing out, you're going to have different temperature effects because you'll have a different light effect.
Explain that one to me.
Well, like you get the bluish look when certain things come out of volcanoes of the sun, but certain temperatures certain lights penetrate the clouds easier. So, like if you had a bunch of stuff that was refracting blue, I don't know how much of the red light would get through an infrared.
Somebody's probably done the research on that already. And I was thinking more temperatures in the whatever, silica rich magma, for example, is always one they talk about that's excited by cosmic rays. Okay, there's other types of breakthrough. It's not always silica, right? But if the temperature's coming out, the blasting through the rock that would create that vapor and all that water and everything mixed together would have maybe a little bit different chemical signature on it. And it wouldn't be as much sulfur dioxide and be more nitrous oxide, or it could be, it could be a few extras, something a little bit different. And then you get that optical density that changes too, like how much ash is up there in addition to the light filtering. I don't know. It's like a case by case basis. I don't know how on a cubic centimeter, like what the density was for Krakatoa. Nobody really knows.
Right. And you'd have to know, kind of the density and what came out and how heavy it was. So how soon it would fall or how long it would stay in the atmosphere blocking light.
But there it comes back to the heat, like that heat in that eruption. And is there electrically induced as well? Like was electrical charge, was there CME coming in that also, but it all boom. The heat has a lot to do with the chemical reaction in it. So I agree with you on that. Blue would be interesting to see. What was that one eruption where they say the moon had disappeared? There was so much sulfur dioxide in the atmosphere for a few years.
Well, that's
what the moon had actually disappeared for a month or so, and it freaked people out. But it was
You don't,
just sulfur dioxide where the moon disappeared. I'm sure anybody could look that up online.
this doesn't go back that far, but
It doesn't.
you got 539 AD, and people all over the world were describing that it was like the moon was up when the sun was up, and that they didn't really have any moonlight at night.
Yeah, it's interesting. Tambora is the largest eruption. It's not the largest, but it had the greatest cooling effect. Tambora did. That was a Indonesian volcano, and look, Samalas was too. You think there'd be equal cooling, but it's not. It's like a good degree Celsius, way deeper and bigger than anything else on this thing. So even if we
Well,
had another Tambora eruption where the red is up there, like even if it would drop kind of back down to baseline, I don't know how much it
and
would
then
really dent anything.
you kind of look at Tambora though, and you had a really extreme drop in temperature because you had a year without a summer, but it was short lived compared to this first volcano on here. This, what is that, Samalas? It's looks like a long term cooling comparative, but
Yeah, it
not as
does.
cold.
Let me see if I can drudge out a couple instances here for you. I might have, let me see what I have a couple more volcano slides for you here, if you don't mind.
Of course not. Everybody loves
So
volcanoes.
this one shows the Tarume eruption, Japan, 1739, and how all that sulfur dioxide came and hooked in a Scandinavian blocking high. Siberian Arctic cold temperatures swing down. And this is one, I forget who it was next to the fire. They had a roaring fireplace going, and their wine bottles froze next to the fire. I
Wow.
forget who that was. It was not Napoleon. It was somebody else, French, that was standing that so cold that the bottles apparently the story is so cold the bottles froze next to the fire of their fine wine.
Mm-mm.
That would have been this Arctic air plunge they're talking about here in 1739. So that would be more regional. It wouldn't be the entire planet. So Tambora seemed to be a full planetary thing because on the equator, so those cloud cells would have wrapped that ash south and north both because it's on the equator. So it would have got picked up in both cloud cells, moving north and south. This one would have just been stuck into the north of the northern hemisphere and the north part of the northern hemisphere.
Yeah, and
That's not going way down to the equator off that. It's kind of locked in there. So it's locked
right.
in. Japan. Think about Japan and draw a circle all the way around the world from Japan, and then just the whole top of the world would have been covered. Well, it would grow crops there. And by the way, blocking that would have sent the air patterns or the airflow into a different place. Oh, wait, the Arctic air was continually funneled for like 3 to 5 years straight down into and over Europe. So Spain, no Spanish holiday to froze your butt off.
Right. Obviously, depending on where the volcano's at, which latitude it's at, it's going to have a
Yeah.
completely different effect.
42 north, according to the map, 42 north in Japan. So anything 40 north and above would have been totally sulfur dioxide yellowed out. And then the wind patterns would have changed because of that. Just saying.
Right. And you'd have melted snow and all kinds of stuff from the debris on it.
Yeah, right. Once that soot gets on there, and it would be early melting for a lot of things. So here's what I found really interesting about that too is this is 1788 to 18, but here's 1739, and then that's not too far away between 1788, and they had another tremendous exact same thing happen. So it had to have been another volcano, but there's no volcano listed exactly at that time. That would have drove the same pattern of a regional eruption that would have had that whole disruption in the northern hemisphere from say 40 up to the Arctic Circle that would have displaced. That's exactly the same wind flow pattern, but there's no volcano attributed to it. So you tell me. The Frost Fair, 1788. Well, Amanda Minimum was more like 1640, 1650. So again, the Frost Fair's return, where the River Thames froze, not only during the Maunder Minimum, but then it froze again in 1788 and 1789. Like, what was the cause of this? They don't really say. There was no big volcano that triggered it. Was it cosmic rays?
Well, they did discover a large comet in 1788.
That would be it then. That goes together. Then what did it do that caused that? It would have had the same effect of some sort of event that would have clouded and caused some sort of particulates in the north part of the world to swirl around again.
Right. I don't know how close they got to Earth. I just know that I think it's like Rigget, something like that.
Well, that's what they
comet was
talk about when these
discovered.
tails come by. That's exactly with the Chicago fires. They said a comet tail came by, and not only Chicago fires, there were fires all over the place, like around Green Bay, and there were multiple fires everywhere around Chicago. It wasn't just in Chicago. I mean, all the way back, it seemed like if the blast pattern was coming in, and then Chicago would have been the last one, and everything back from there, hundreds of miles, there were fires as well, like mega raging fires.
It says
So
this comet goes around every 155 years, and they called it the Great Comet of 1680 because it illuminated the sky above Nuremberg.
yeah, so think about these types of events that can set it off. And this is my last one here, the Little Ice Age. So if we go back in time, 1783 is not 1788. So I highly doubt that Lockheed 5 years later would have had that same effect of so much whatever. And you're just talking about the comet coming through. Perhaps that stuff was dissipating, all that ash and whatever, sulfur dioxide and any other particles were settling out of the atmosphere, and then that comet tail came by, dropped some stuff, brushed up a few things, and then they had another atmospheric event that would have changed wind patterns.
Right.
And 1808 mystery cooling, or is that 1806? It's 1808. Mystery cooling. Okay. Then there was that 1815, 1816, Tambora right there. So you had a mystery cooling in 1808, but 8 years later, you had another cooling event. Like, what is this thing that we're not being told in history? Because I sure didn't learn about all this. And you have to wonder, this is an AI generated slide. So how much of it is fake that AI is putting out that we know that our research had done as humans before this, that I don't remember any 1808 mystery cooling, bro.
Well, there was, let's see,
But I don't know everything here.
1808, 1807, 1811. Those are all years of like 7 or higher earthquakes also. So that would have been like right before Tambora.
Yeah. So something electromagnetically was tweaking there as well. Really low magnetic. So they call it the Dalton minimum, like a grand solar minimum. It was the Dalton minimum. Maunder minimum was in the 1640s, 1650s. Come out of it right around 1660 or so. It did stay a little chilly. Yeah, but then we come into the Dalton minimum in 1815, and I'm saying we're coming into another one right now.
Well, what I was going to say is you had this, it says 1808 mystery cooling spike. So you have a bunch of earthquakes in 1808. And then in 1811, 1812, you have those massive earthquakes on the New Madrid fault. And then you have Tambora. And then you have a whole year without a summer. I mean, that's a lot of stuff geologically in a row.
But it's such a long time frame. It's not a single event.
Well, that
so
would
what
only
happened
been
to cause that a chain of events for multi-years is the question.
Right. What caused the
anything could be attributed to a single thing. Okay, a comet came through. That was one thing. Okay, that was it. Okay, we got one thing for 1 year. It's pretty big. Comet come through and the tail brushes the planet, starts mega fires. That's a pretty big thing. But everything else, like 6, 7 years in a row, come on, like what? Something had to have been different with the magnetic field on the planet. Like, again, what are we being told as history? Is it true? Should be more the question. And how can't this be explained? If it's part of the climate debate and it was only 150 years or 200 years ago. I mean, that's very close in time comparatively looking back 9,000 years or something. And we don't include this or think about what happened in the early 1800s. Totally natural. Knocked the temperature back, and then it came and spiked, then we warmed up again. Like, we can't talk about that. It's 200 years ago, bro. 150 years ago.
Well,
we can't.
It seems like
ransom.
It seems like we should be more worried about the fact that our magnetic field is in the same state it was 40,000 years ago when a bunch of stuff went extinct. That seems like a pretty relevant thing that people would all, be kind of intensely paying attention to, especially the powers that be, knowing that, several hominids just got wiped off the face of the earth right at that time. And here we are. It's
always a good time to look at gold, and when you're talking about a deep subject, man. Those are, I think they're all 1 ounce nuggets. I'm not sure. Say 2 ounce or 1 ounce. I can't see it.
Oh, it's just 999.9 gold. 1 ounce, I think.
Yeah, no, those 2 little ounces. Nuggets. 2 ounces. All right. Well, how much? If it's 2 ounces, that's like almost $9,000 for one of those little nuggets right there. Sellable anywhere on the planet. Anybody on the planet will take that in a second. Like you walk
You
around
know,
with that.
like,
You can walk around with US dollars and people want those, but people
will
want
they
that
let you on the,
more right now.
I was wondering if you need all these biometrics via Bluetooth so you could use all these public transits and stuff. You're going to have to be giving people a little, a silver coin to get a ride somewhere that's not part of the system. Here's my ticket, sir.
I think you're still. I was checking this the other day because they were talking about. Was it Rick Rule that I was listening to, or was it Andy Scheckman, Bill Holter? One of them was talking about metals because they were going to a show and they were taking metals on an airplane, and then they were talking about that. Currently, they didn't have any restriction on being able to take the legal 10,000 or under out for some coins they're carrying in bars to go to a show. So that as long as it was under that 10,000, then you were still okay. Now, will that be like that forever? I don't think so. I think in the future they're going to put some sort of limits on what you can actually physically take out of the country. They've done this in history. I was listening to Martin Armstrong, and he was saying they routinely do that with gold. Like they don't let anybody leave with gold out of Europe. So when does it happen when you're not to leave out of America with any gold or silver? Like it all stays. You even find a 1 ounce, dude, it's like having a firearm on you. You're not allowed. You can't. They're arrested, confiscated. You're going right to the work camp because you tried to get the silver out of the empire.
Well, at least, in a few states, what is it? I think I got a list right here. Utah, Texas, Oklahoma, and Florida, among others, it says. You can use gold and silver for tinder.
Tennessee as well.
Nice. But it's still up to the the business or whoever you're dealing with if they're going to accept that. But that's a good start of more states should move to that.
Yeah, you can use it to pay your property taxes. Government must accept it face value. There's no like arbitrage on its face value.
All right. Now, nuts and berries, bark.
Hey, what I was looking at, this is the European peasant food pantry during the Little Ice Age and what the famine risk was depending on that food source for you to get through.
Right.
Scarce and desperate foods years. Look at that. They were eating turnips, acorns, deer. That bread, I'm going to say for sure had to be like some sort of barley or
gruel.
Wow, some sort of dark bread. Not even oat. It would be something more on the pumpernickel-ish side of things. But look how meager it was. You're going to eat oak leaves and you're going to eat like acorns and bark off of a tree to stay alive and eat. Now, what the hell is that?
Probably dark
Those are the
rye.
desperation top.
Right. It's probably dark rye bread.
Yeah. And then the seasonal produce as well. You got fish, carrots. What else you got there? Rabbit. Weak ale. I wonder what their weak ale percentage was. 2%, 5%, 8%. Because everybody used to drink whiskey out of the bottle back then. And then you're talking about water. Beer. Yeah. Then what are the staple grains down there?
That's all the stuff we don't really need. Maybe those green beans and stuff and the lentils. But
oats, barley, rye, or no, rough rye. Yeah. So again, yeah, that's what the dark breads would have been. They would have been pumpernickel, rye, barley, some kind of bread like that. That's why you got the dark bread. Those are the healthiest ones for you. We've been told wheat bread's awesome, but it's actually those more ancient grain breads are the best ones. Really for health. But I mean, I found it to be quite the interesting pyramid there because everybody's talking about the new food pyramid that came out. Well, what about the starvation pyramid of the Little Ice Age? I mean, that should be included in school reading, and they should have field trips out so then the kids can go eat bark and stuff.
That one on the top is probably the only thing you could eat in North America.
Or something like that. Right? Cambium eating class, kids. Let's go get the cambium. Try not to kill all the maple trees.
Well, definitely, if there's no grocery stores and you can't bag an elk, a deer, or a pronghorn or something, you're pretty much stuck to eating bark in North America.
And your boot and your belts back then, because it was like natural leather, not like today's chemical treated stuff. You still could eat in your belt for sure. Lots of recipes going around.
There
Belt
we go.
recipes, no kidding. No, I'm not kidding. Anybody look it up? There were tons of belt recipes everywhere, man. That was the thing that women traded: belt recipes and leather shoe recipes, like leather recipes.
Yeah.
Got that hungry, you could boil something up. And again, just the shoe polish was rudimentary back then. It's just like not chemically. Oh, and you could eat the wallpaper, the glue off your wallpaper too. They were trading those and teaching people how to do that. I think it was Stalingrad or was it Leningrad? One of the two, World War II. They were eating the glue from the back of the wallpaper. But again, that's too toxic today. Back then it was basically like horse hooves, man. So anyway, this goes on through history. Starvation pyramids should be taught. Cambium collecting classes. Should be able to know how to get water out of a tree. It's got a little bit of sugar in it. You can, eat real food. Cambium. But this is our new food pyramid from the top down. Is anything really labeled? It's not even labeled. Like, what are they going to tell the kids? Well, where's that? It's a T-bone steak, Dad. Wait, it's a bioprinted meat just behind the whole milk?
That's my food pyramid that I've eaten my whole life right there.
Yeah, huh?
Very little bread, mostly just meat and vegetables. I'm still here.
We have to think too, even going back in the days of the shekel and the denarius, going back thousands and thousands of years, it was always weighed against the food. The silver weight was against the grains of said grain crop.
Right.
But now you got some olive oil there, which is nice. You got the avocados, butter, shrimp, green beans. Well, I'm surprised they don't show an actual green bean. Why do we have a can of green beans right in the middle there?
Well, we can't push people over totally to a healthy diet. You got to ease them into it. First, get them eating the can, and maybe introduce some fresh vegetables.
Well, there's bags of peas up there, bags of frozen peas as well at the top.
Oh, that's not bad.
No.
Frozen stuff. Except
Trader
for all
Joe's, shout out, frozen broccoli, florets, awesome. But they do have a little banana. If you look at banana, like freeze-dried bananas, probably about $24 for 2.5 pounds. I was just looking the other day. Number 10 tin can, a number 10 can of like those 2 pounds, 6 ounces of freeze-dried bananas was $23 or $24. How much could you get fresh bananas for?
I don't know, man. I'm gonna grow me a banana tree. But I was wondering is how much glyphosate. Show me the product there that doesn't have the glyphosate.
Your home garden. If you decide not to put it there.
I know, because all of that, you got the grain, the bread saturated in it, all the vegetables, even the frozen vegetables, the canned vegetables, they got all that nice BPA and liner in the cans. And, depending, like you said, are you eating some of that bioengineered meat or are you actually getting organic beef?
Organic, because I know the rancher myself and I know what they feed to their cattle. So I know that it's they grow their own heirloom cattle or their own heirloom corn to feed those cattle with, but it's heirloom variety, open pollinated, and there's nothing GM about it. It's just corn from East Tennessee that they found a species that they like and they grow it. Hogs like it, cattle likes it, chickens like it after it's cracked. All good for everything. Right. So I know where that comes from, and I know that they don't really do much with their cattle over there. So clean meat for me is a good thing.
I noticed they didn't put pink slime on there. I don't see it anywhere on the pyramid.
Is that an ingredient? Is that like a part of the food pyramid, pink slime?
I think it's like that whole midsection. I'm surprised that this doesn't have, McDonald's and Burger King as a row there.
Well, those grapes too. Now you're gonna need to be careful with grapes. They spray the living shizznizzle out of the grapes for everything because everything you want to eat them, everything in nature wants to eat it 10 times more than you do, and there's billions of times more things that want to eat it than you do out there. So they really need to spray and protect the grapes. And then they got the A-peel type of coating. Bill Gates's A-peel kind of they put it around. Avocados, for example, would have that around it. So would an apple. Keeps everything fresher longer, supposedly, but you can't wash it off once it gets sprayed or like into the skin of that fruit. You can't even wash it off.
Well, luckily with avocados, you don't eat the skin, but a lot of people do eat apple skins and grapes and strawberries and all of that stuff. Pears.
Yeah, and strawberry is another highly,
And
highly sprayed crop, and blueberries too. I mean, they're to the nth degree, man. If you don't know somebody who's doing it yourself, you can guarantee they're spraying heavily, especially insecticides. Not so much herbicides, fungicide, like if it gets funky with too much rain and that sort of stuff. It's for sure the insects that are trying to get everything. They are pounding the living crap out of that with insecticides.
is that bad for me to look there and I'm seeing a tuna can and we got a little Fukushima?
I
There's
was
a
thinking
nice
irradiated fish too. Dude, don't eat the salmon. All farm-raised salmon got lead in it or something, right?
mercury.
The old wives' tale.
No, but
Would you?
it does have a lot of parasites. If you've seen some of these farms that grow some of the
Mhm.
farm-grown fish, it's disgusting.
Yeah, and you got to think about Fukushima, really, and don't be and not really making fun of it or I'm making a serious statement. Like the oceans got wrecked and polluted, and they continue to release millions of gallons of this radioactive water every single month. They have since that time until this today. They're still releasing every month. They just captured in pools and try to clean it a little bit before they release it back into the Pacific Ocean. And the oceans oscillate, circulates, so all that's been dropped off of Japan is making its way around the oceans. It should be back pretty much. I think it's like a 7-year circuit when it goes all the way back around. I think it should be getting kind of, if it's a little bit slower than that polluted water releasing 20 million gallons at a time, like how long will that take to swirl all the way back? But it will eventually make it back there, irradiating all along the way. And
Well,
I'm so
hopefully it'd be
shocked
so
at the very just most ridiculous. They're still letting that go in the ocean because there's nowhere else to put it. Like there's really nowhere else to put it.
right. Well, hopefully
Yeah,
it
there's been more building a
mostly
tank.
dissipate. But
Well, it's
I was just wondering the same thing with the shrimp there. Is that farmed shrimp or is that British petroleum shrimp?
BP shrimps, man, drag the bottom. They're eating plastics. They're eating like droplets of oil, dude. Those things are like the vein's not black on them because of the poo coming out from the sand. It's from the
Eh,
corexit that it got broken down, and they're nibbling all that stuff through the
I was
sand.
watching this documentary about the albatross and the way that it hatches its egg and then it leaves for a couple months to the ocean to eat all kinds of stuff. So it comes back and about half of the chicks die because half of the albatross's diet is chunks of plastic. So it
Oh, well,
just
now
it,
you're
it
gonna
goes
make
back.
them
It feeds the baby like a big old regurgitated plastic toxic dish.
see him with like a bottle cap stuck right in here. Sorry, dude, you didn't survival of the fittest. You couldn't understand plastic, my friend.
Well, that we never know. That might be the next spark of speciation, is the contamination of genetic, chemical, and plastic all in the environment and everything.
What would come rising out of the great garbage patch, this plastic patch in the middle of the Pacific after the magnetic field collapses and the next species born of something new? Because we had an evolutionary jump, literally because of the cosmic ray density and the lowered magnetic field. What would pop out of the primordial ooze in the middle of the great garbage patch, man? That is the
Tiny,
question to be answered, and it should be.
tiny robots, smaller than a grain of sand. I mean, it's almost like what would come out of it? Some kind of silicone-based nanobot. I don't know how else you would describe it. And they mess with the bacteria. They got anywhere you look, like just pick something and you'll find that they've engineered and diddled with the programming of some creature. So you got all that bacteria that eats up the oil spills and whatever. So they constantly introduce new animals into the biome.
Oh, we shouldn't do that. A quote as we head out here tonight. Power may be defined as organized and intelligently directed knowledge. Power, as the term here is used, refers to the organized effort sufficient to enable an individual, as in a person, you or me, to transmute that desire into the infinite consciousness, i.e., the power of the mastermind, the driving force. Thank you for staying with us tonight. The Civilization Cycle podcast every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight, streaming off of Rumble out into X, as well on the Civ Cycle channel over onto YouTube, the Civilization Cycle podcast. We're going to be adding the Adapt 2030 back in on the mix here coming up next week. And please remember to subscribe to our show notes, civilizationcycle.com. Head in there, put your email in, and give you a bullet point to 10 things that we spoke about tonight. And please remember, head over to Spotify or anywhere you listen to podcasts across the net. Subscribe to our feed, and we just have gone over our 600th episode. Yeah. So join us over there. Leave a like, subscribe, listen, and download what you like. 600 choices to continue the conversation with your friends and families. And if you like this conversation, please buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/civilization cycle. Actually, it's a double espresso to keep us working through the night just like this. Until next week, thank you for your time. So special to stay with us. Keep the conversation going. Bye for now.